Welcome to This Explainer. We're diving straight into the heart of one of the ocean's absolute biggest, most enduring mysteries today. We're talking about a stretch of open water that has literally consumed ships, swallowed airplanes whole, and really just sparked the darkest corners of human imagination for decades. It's an area entirely shrouded in whispers of the supernatural, sure, but it's also grounded in some truly terrifying natural realities. So get ready, because we're unpacking the myth, the menace, and the actual marine reality of the Bermuda Triangle.
As if they had flown to Mars. Now that's not a dramatic line from some sci-fi movie. That is a direct official quote from a United States Navy report. It was written to describe the completely baffling disappearance of Flight 19. We're talking about 14 highly trained men in 5 Navy bombers, plus a 13-man rescue crew who just vanished into thin air. No wreckage, no bodies, just a terrifying, inexplicable blank space on the map. I mean, how does that even happen?
Section 1. Entering the Devil's Triangle.
The sheer persistence of the danger out there is just staggering. We aren't just looking at some modern internet rumor. The strange reports from this area stretch all the way back to the year 1492 with Christopher Columbus. They surge right into the 20th century with the devastating loss of the USS Cyclops in 1918, and then basically culminate in that infamous Flight 19 vanishing in 1945. So let's walk through exactly what went down in these historical moments. Put yourself in Christopher Columbus's shoes for a minute. You're navigating completely uncharted waters on your first voyage to the New World in 1492. You're in a wooden ship, totally at the mercy of the elements. Suddenly, according to Columbus's own logs, this great flame of fire crashes into the sea one night. Now, it was likely a meteor, but still terrifying, right? Then a few weeks later, these strange, unexplained lights appear in the distance, and honestly, perhaps the most alarming thing for a navigator, your compass just starts giving you entirely erratic readings, acting completely of its own accord. This was basically the world's very first introduction to the triangle.
Okay, let's fast forward to March 1918, and we hit a number that is simply hard to wrap your head around. Over 300. That is how many men were lost when the USS Cyclops disappeared. And this wasn't some tiny little boat. It was a massive 542-foot-long Navy cargo ship carrying 10,000 tons of manganese ore. It was sailing right between Barbados and the Chesapeake Bay, fully equipped with the ability to send an SOS distress call. But it never did. It just vanished without a trace, and an extensive search found absolutely zero wreckage. To make it even creepier, in 1941, 2 of the Cyclops' sister ships actually disappeared along nearly the exact same route. The sheer lack of answers left the entire country absolutely stunned. Just let this haunting remark from then U.S. President Woodrow Wilson sink in for a second. He said, "Only God and the sea know what happened to the great ship." When the leader of a superpower, a guy with the entire Navy at his disposal, basically has to throw his hands up and surrender to the mystery of the ocean, you know for sure you are dealing with a menacing environment. But the tragedy that really cemented the legend, the one everyone knows, happened in December 1945. 5 Navy bombers, Flight 19, took off from Fort Lauderdale for a routine practice run over some nearby shoals. Their compasses mysteriously malfunctioned. The flight leader got completely hopelessly lost. And we actually know from radio intercepts that they flew aimlessly until their fuel ran out, forcing them to ditch into the rough sea. But it gets worse. A massive flying boat with a 13-man rescue crew was sent out to find them, and that rescue plane vanished too. Weeks of desperate searching turned up absolutely nothing.
Section 2. The climax of the myth.
Now, here's a wild fact. The term itself didn't even exist until an author named Vincent Gaddis coined the phrase Bermuda Triangle in a 1964 magazine article. He really stoked the fires by pointing out a bunch of other weird accidents, like passenger planes going down right after sending all's well radio messages. Then, in 1974, Charles Berlitz dropped a sensational bestseller that just catapulted the whole legend into the stratosphere. Because let's be real, authors realized pretty quickly that missing ships are interesting, but unexplainable supernatural mysteries, well, those sell books.
And man, did they sell the mystery. Scores of paranormal writers jumped on the bandwagon, proposing the wildest theories you can imagine. We are talking about extraterrestrial abductions grabbing humans for alien study. We're talking about the magical crystal energies of the lost continent of Atlantis, literally pulling ships under. Time warps, dimensional vortices, reverse gravity fields, and yeah, of course, giant sea monsters. The tension and the terror surrounding this specific region reached an absolute fever pitch in the public consciousness.
Okay, let's dive into this, because we're left with this incredible contrast. On one side, we have these wildly entertaining, sci-fi-fueled paranormal theories, aliens, Atlantis, time warps. But on the exact opposite side, we have grounded, evidence-based scientific realities, massive methane eruptions, the sheer force of the Gulf Stream, and intense magnetic anomalies. We really need to strip away all that sensationalism for a second to see what the actual data is telling us.
Section 3. The grounded scientific reality.
So a super crucial point here is a concept that is scientifically, and let's be honest, kind of hilariously, known as oceanic flatulence. Yes, the ocean literally passes gas. More specifically, we are talking about massive eruptions of methane gas from deep, deep ocean sediments. If a large enough methane bubble erupts and rises to the surface right under a ship, it can theoretically alter the density of the water. That disrupts the ship's buoyancy and could cause it to sink incredibly rapidly, without a trace. It's a surprising but totally genuine and grounded explanation for vessels just vanishing suddenly.
Next up, we have disruptions in geomagnetic lines of flux. Remember Columbus and his terrified crew dealing with those erratic compass readings? Well, there is real evidence to suggest that the Bermuda Triangle is one of those very rare places on Earth where a magnetic compass sometimes points to true north rather than magnetic north. If a navigator back in 1945, like the leader of Flight 19, wasn't actively compensating for that sudden, confusing shift, it is incredibly easy to get severely, hopelessly lost over hundreds of miles of open water.
And honestly, all of this just brilliantly illustrates the sheer overwhelming reality of nature itself. Look at the environmental hazards that are just natively packed into this one specific region. The vast majority of all Atlantic tropical storms and hurricanes pass right through the Bermuda Triangle. You've also got the Gulf Stream ripping through there, which acts like this incredibly swift, powerful river within the ocean that can cause rapid, extremely violent changes in the weather out of nowhere. Add to that the treacherous ship-sinking shallow waters and hidden reefs of the Caribbean Sea, and you literally have a recipe for total disaster, especially before modern weather forecasting even existed.
Section 4. Solving the Triangle Mystery.
I absolutely love this quote from a skeptic because it just hits the nail on the head regarding the logical flaw in the whole myth. Trying to find a common cause for every Bermuda Triangle disappearance is no more logical than trying to find a common cause for every automobile accident in Arizona. I mean, think about that. Grouping all these entirely unrelated maritime tragedies spanning hundreds of years and blaming the whole shebang on one single supernatural force, it completely ignores the unique variables of each and every disaster.
And you know what? The hard data backs this up entirely. Lloyd's of London, one of the biggest maritime insurance leaders in the world, does not recognize the Bermuda Triangle as an especially hazardous place. They don't even charge higher rates to sail through it. The U.S. Coast Guard has reviewed all the losses and officially states that these casualties are the result of physical causes only. Zero extraordinary or supernatural factors have ever been identified. In fact, the U.S. Board of Geographic Names doesn't even recognize the Bermuda Triangle as an official name. They don't keep an official file on it. Real people navigate these exact waters safely every single day.
So what is the real takeaway here? What is the true monster hiding in the water? It's simply the combined forces of severe, unrelenting nature and plain old human fallibility. The ocean has always been a deeply mysterious, unforgiving, and deadly place. When you combine foul, unpredictable weather with poor navigation or a mechanical failure, the actual results outdo even the most incredulous science fiction stories.
Which really leaves us with this one final thought to ponder. As you absorb all the evidence we've covered in this explainer today, you have to ask yourself, are we truly afraid of mythical sea monsters, alien abductions, and time warps? Or are we simply terrified by the vast, deep, and entirely uncontrollable power of the ocean itself? Because sometimes the brutal reality of nature is far more intimidating than any myth we could possibly invent. Thanks so much for joining in to explore the reality behind the legend. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.